Welcome everybody to a brand new episode of the Evil Safety Dudes. We got a very special podcast today as we got some very special guest hosts. I got in here Ryan and Lisa Bertrand from Bertrand Tactical, and we're going to talk about self-defense, employee safety, crimes that happen at businesses going to and from work. And we're going to just get down in the weeds and just have a lot of fun and talking about how to do your job, make that money, pay that mortgage without being a crime statistic. So let's bring in these guest hosts. Ryan and Lisa, how are you guys today?
Very good. Thanks for having us.
Cool. And how you doing, Mr. Ryan?
I'm good. Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on the show. I always love to get subject matter experts in here to talk with me. As you guys know, we're dealing with occupational health and safety and, getting hurt at work, robberies, to and from work, homicide. It's an occupational issue just as much as it is a civilian issue. A lot of people, they know it, but they haven't really seen the crime statistic numbers on it. Like, I was blown away. I was looking at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The number one cause of death for women at work was homicide.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Think about that.
I couldn't believe that, and it was just like, wow, and so, do what you guys are doing, teaching people situation awareness and self-defense. It's very, very, very important. So I want to get into that and talk about it today. So you guys have this business where you guys teach what? Why don't you tell me what you guys do?
So we do kind of just basically self-defense classes for whoever. It can be, we have a wide audience, but one of the unique niches that's kind of been carved out is women and young ladies. And
Nice.
I'm going to pass off to Lisa and let her talk about it. She's been kind of the driving force on that and has really opened my eyes. My background has been military law enforcement training. And, we've jokingly mentioned, in the past when I've sought out training, it's only to find training partners for myself as well. Selfishly, what I was looking for. Yeah. I'm looking for people to make me better. And then she's really opened my eyes to some different things. So I'll let her talk about that.
So the genesis of Bertrand Tactical in its current form was probably myself.
It's all your fault, huh?
Essentially. And that's probably true for everything. Everything. It's my fault. And that's true for everything on his honey-do list, honestly. But at least this makes a little bit of money for us. So.
Yeah, and does a good work.
Yeah, and it's really an empowering opportunity for anybody that takes the class, and hopefully they have a little bit of fun while they're at it.
So why was it something that you were passionate about?
Well, it was a topic that kept coming up for me personally because in my current role and my current job, I'm an attorney in-house with a corporation, and I happen to travel a lot for work, and I would be on the road by myself, driving, flying. I would stay in hotels a lot by myself as a female, and that was, quite frankly, something that Ryan did not ever see as an issue or a risk. It had not occurred to him because, of course, he's look at him, just
cop.
Look at him. He's fit.
Quit blushing over there.
Yeah, he's not ever had anybody, corner him in a hallway by a bathroom. He's never had anybody hold the door to the convenience store on the way out and then follow them to their car. He's never had anybody in an elevator follow them down the hall to their hotel room.
That would be scary stuff.
Those concerns just had never really occurred.
They probably see him and go the other way. Well, sometimes people have that law enforcement look.
Oh, he has the cop face.
And bad guys, they're really good at picking that out. Even if you're trying to dress down, and they'll see you and turn the other way, and then he'll follow them to see what they're up to.
And for the benefit of the audience, this isn't filmed as I'm being told, I don't look like an ogre. Just want to get that on the record.
He's not unfortunate looking. No.
So you were traveling and you had some experiences and you had some concerns. So Did you approach him and said, "Hey, what do you got for me?"
Yes.
Okay.
And I also have several female friends who have
Right.
similar jobs and similar experiences, and they were also interested. And so we sort of started this informally
Okay.
with kind of a, hey, let's get together. What can you show us?
Nice.
And
Like a Tupperware party, but self-defense.
exactly like a Tupperware
Crack
party.
some wine and get some food.
There were
and
cocktails and chokeholds.
Yeah. No eye gouges on the first one.
It was how to get out of grabs.
Nice,
And now
nice.
he won't do that with me anymore because I'm that good at it.
See, that's good though. That's where I'm at with my kids. My oldest, my 14-year-old son and my 15-year-old daughter just competed in the cage Saturday for the first kickboxing fight. And my son's taller than me now, and another year I won't be able to beat him up.
I think I saw some pictures of
Yeah,
that.
yeah, super proud dad moment. Got to brag a little bit, but it's cool when, as a teacher, your student gets to the point where they got it down, and you really have that confidence in them that somebody grabbed them, they're going to be able to get out. So that's really a cool thing. And so then, when did you guys decide like to do it more formally?
I would say about 2018, we started testing some classes.
All right.
And we've done it. It's not. We have had a little break with COVID.
Yeah.
But yeah, 2018 we started doing classes, and it's been very well received by everybody who has taken the classes. They always come out. The classes are about a 2.5, 3 hour format.
Nice.
It's about the first hour and a half, just depending on the makeup of the class. I would call it classroom format.
Okay.
And then the last half is hands-on.
Cool.
And that's the fun part, of course.
Yeah.
And I am not the expert, of course. I'm more of the practice dummy for him in the class, and we demonstrate, and then people get to pair up and have some opportunity to test some of the things
That's
that
awesome.
he teaches them, and it is always very well received. So,
And I really get behind self-defense training coming from law enforcement, military trainer, because the defensive tactics that they know is stuff that has to work. Because there's a lot of self-defense stuff. You guys are on the internet like everybody else, and it's like these people telling some of these people what to do. It's like, come on, like that doesn't work. Like, go ahead, let's try that with 1 ounce of resistance. So I feel good about what you guys are doing coming from Ryan's background, and it's going to be the legit stuff. So that's pretty cool, and it's probably not, even if somebody came to you for self-defense that had learned self-defense somewhere else, I imagine they're like probably saying stuff like, well, this seems like it would actually work. Have you ever got any of those type of responses?
Yeah, so to back it up just a little bit, one of the things that's always really interesting in being an instructor and creating content and teaching for as many years I have is, depending on the certain audience that you're teaching to, they're very challenging. They may say, hey, well, show me, prove it to me that this works. So over the course of the years, we've narrowed down. I'm a real big fan of principle based,
sure.
because there's no way that you can encompass every single technique or body position. So A, then B, then C doesn't always work. So what I find really empowering when I teach is to give people the underlying principles that will guide them universally. And the really good principles travel. They work when you're driving. They work when you're at your desk. They work when you're in a street fight. And, the really good principles I find travel, like breathing. There's so many good breathing principles that can help you in a fight, but also help you when you're stressed out, when you're nervous, when you're anxious, when you're dealing with your kids, that kind of thing. So as Lisa and I talked and we were discussing, some of these issues that were unique to women or young ladies in certain situations, it became a deal of, hey, let's look at these principles. And then you could see that these principles can apply slightly different. There's a slightly different application or maybe a slightly different technique, but the underlying principles do apply and are applicable. So, looking at it that way was really eye-opening for me, and it was really great to say, hey, we have some solutions. There's some
Right.
solutions for you out there, so you don't have to struggle with this alone.
Did you have to modify anything for the new clientele? Because I know from the law enforcement defensive tactic world, sometimes you come across a technique that only works when you're really, really, really strong. And so I've noticed when I'm trying to teach somebody else something, they just can't do it. And then I feel like a failure. And then I'm really, oh, this is too much strength orientated. Let's modify this and figure out, just kick them first and then try it. Did you run into that from like meshing the defensive tactics world to the self-defense world?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely, of course. And then depending on which environment you're in, there's different rules of engagement, to use like a military term, what the military can get away with.
Right.
And they allow or don't allow is not the same that law enforcement, allows or doesn't allow. And, we've had groups that we've instructed where they have very defined policies that they cannot use any proactive force at all. In fact, we've had one of our courses that we worked with was a nursing home staff. And you would think, well, what kind of danger is a nursing home staff in? But what we found out, and again, talking to them and why they reached out to us, was they have problem with clientele that are assaultive of clients. Maybe they're mentally ill,
right?
Maybe they're diminished in mental capacity in some way. And then, believe it or not, and I hate to say this, but sometimes domestic violence travels to work.
For sure.
and meets people
Definitely.
at work, unfortunately. So, maybe a disgruntled boyfriend or ex-husband or estranged husband shows up at work, and, these people are looking for some ideas and solutions on how to handle that. So, yeah, we have to craft our response based to them or what they can or can't do. But, the interesting thing is it's very empowering to know that there's always something that you can do. There's always a response. You do not have to resign yourself to being a victim.
Yeah, a lot of the listening audience, they may or may not know the violence that different trades experience. If you were just hanging out at a gathering of friends and saying, yeah, I just did self-defense for a long-term residential care facility, they might look at you like you're a weirdo, like you're training people how to beat up elderly. No, we're training staff how to survive an attack from them or family members without causing any harm. And, people don't realize the biting that happens. And just when you have Alzheimer's and dementia, how you could be back reliving a traumatic incident from when you were 20 and you're thinking your nurse is that person and you're fighting back. I mean, that stuff is real. And
they're not all old either.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Some of them folks in those care facilities are not elderly.
No,
and they
not.
have a lot of strength yet in them. Yeah. So
I would say the other thing I'd point out is the size and strength issue.
Right.
I'm not as big or strong.
You don't bench 300 pounds?
I mean, almost. Almost. I'm almost there.
Me too.
I'm working on it.
It's one of my goals.
But that's probably one of the biggest things that people walk out of these classes with is
Right.
realizing that you don't have to be as big, as strong,
Yeah.
or as fast as the person attacking you, and you can still get away from
For
the situation.
sure.
Now, you don't want to stay and hang out and keep engaging.
Kickbox with them.
Yeah, you're not going to win that fight, but you can get out of the initial situation if you have a few. My favorite thing to do is to, he has taught me how to use the finger techniques to get away from a grab.
Yeah.
And he hates that a
Oh,
lot.
man, those
So
hurt,
They,
man.
they do, and that's probably one of the most effective and empowering things to know is how to
Right.
get out of a grab. And you don't have to be benching
Yeah,
300 pounds, and you don't have to be lightning fast. That really is an equalizer, just knowing just a few things. And I think when that light bulb switches on, we ask for feedback at the end of a class. That's always one of the things that I think people comment on, how they are excited by that and pleased by that.
Yeah, and that's awesome, and that's what it's all about,
Yeah.
We can't change. I mean, everybody could lift a little bit of weights, but we're not drastically going to change I wish I could grow taller, but I can't, So we are who we are, and so we got to learn to use our body to be most effective, and they can be very effective. Bruce Lee, a lot of people believe, to be just one of the best martial arts of all time, and most people believe Bruce Lee could beat up anybody. But what a lot of people don't know about Bruce Lee is he was 135 pounds. He was 5'7", and it just goes to show that that's not a big frame, but with skill and training, you could do a lot of great things as well. So let's just get into the weeds a little bit, just to have a little bit of fun. So if I am somebody who is not big, is not strong, what is like just some combative, some kind of area on the body that I could strike, just something I could do if my life was in danger, if someone was actually like grabbing me, trying to drag me away, what would be just some like buttons, the easy buttons on the body that I could push and have effect, even though I'm not, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
So, of course, this is a very common question. I mean, people always want to know, what can I do?
Yeah. I don't want to train, so just tell me one thing.
So, take someone who's take an NFL linebacker.
Okay.
275 pounds, 6'3".
That's big.
Runs
That's scary.
4.5 40. Just a specimen. And then you can take little old lady, whatever. If they both close their eyes,
okay,
they both have about the same amount of skin covering their eyeball as the other person.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, for example, all that muscularity, all that strength, the eyes still remain a vulnerable target. So, if you're able as a victim to impact someone's, touch their eyes, attack their eyes, very effective.
Definitely. Yeah.
The one we always hear, and I kind of dispel this myth a little bit with some of the people we teach, especially in the women's classes, is, you always heard it, I'll just kick him in the groin.
Yeah.
Dad always says, kick him in the groin, kick him in the groin. Now, is the groin a fantastic target? Absolutely. Can it have a lot of pain? Can be very effective? 100%. To kick someone in the groin, to kick a male in the groin is not an easy task.
Yeah,
it's low percentage.
It's
low percentage.
You're gonna off balance yourself.
Yep.
To get power, it takes some training.
Exactly, all those things. So
you can't just tap them there.
If you were gonna go for a kick there, not as easy as it might seem. So to pick that or select that as this is my one shot to get away from this person may not be actually your best move. You should probably look somewhere else for something else.
The way they're standing, it may not even be open.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's one of our moves we work on a lot. I teach Krav Maga. I don't know if you guys knew that. And we love the groin kick, but I actually don't even like the word groin kick. I try to teach people to kick through the groin and break the pubic symphysis, the cartilage rings that holds the pelvis together. So their legs, they can't really walk that good. But everything you're saying is so accurate. Like, it's not just something you could do without training. Like, it's called a front instep kick. It almost looks like a punter. And we're constantly training how to open up that target, how to hit it from all angles, how to hit it with enough power to break that, to crack that. And it's not just like, oh, I know this one thing and I'm good, I don't need to train it. You got to make that happen, So, yeah, I'm glad you're telling people that.
Right, but that's not the move you just learned for this one attack. You're the little old lady in the parking garage.
Yeah,
probably.
To be honest with you, the little old lady in the parking garage, I don't think she could pull it off. Yeah. I mean, with balance issues, mobility issues, hip issues, like doing a powerful front instep kick, it's probably not something that should be in her repertoire now, depending on her, physical ability. But
so they have, one of the young ladies at one of our recent classes, we do at the beginning of the class, we'll bring up a whiteboard and we'll ask them a couple different questions. One of the questions we'll ask a lot of time is, what are some things that you're afraid of?
Yeah.
What are some things that cause you concern? And then, we'll see the typical responses, and there is kind of some patterns. Like it'll make something to do with a scary man, being alone in a dark place with poor visibility, low light. These will be some of the scenarios and some of the things that cause them. Walking alone, coming from my car. So some of these things, confined spaces, elevators, stairwells, etc. And then we'll ask them. A follow-up question will be, "What are something you hope to learn by the end of the day?" And then they'll usually say, "Hey, escape from grabs," or "Get away from someone who's trying to hurt me," "not getting thrown into a van." And the other day, one of the young ladies wrote "sing."
Do you remember the Sandra Bullock movie, Miss Congeniality?
Yes, I do.
Sing.
So I wasn't familiar with the deal, and I said, hey, let's be.
I don't remember the acronym, but I remember the
Solar
movie.
plexus,
Okay.
instep, nose, groin.
Okay.
She
Cool.
does the move in her little Bavarian costume on stage.
Nice.
For those that don't remember the movie. Sorry
It
to
was a good-
perpetuate
it was
the
a-
myth here.
It was a good movie.
It was a great movie, but it's sort of like kicking him in the groin. It's a
Yeah, that the instep, it's there. If someone
Yeah,
was
so
bear hugging you from the back.
what was interesting, of course, for me, I'm like, I didn't recognize the reference right away. So I'm like, listen, I'll be honest with you. If you came here to learn how to sing,
I'm not the guy.
I can maybe make you squeal, but there's not gonna be any singing that's gonna happen. So then
Right.
she explained what it was, and I thought, okay, so that led to a point. And I want to add a little bit to what you mentioned earlier about people maybe not being ready or not being able to apply a technique. A layered approach is always going to be better. If you put all your eggs in one
Right.
tactical basket, that's not a great strategy. I mean, if you're just going to rely on physical strength, even as a man,
Right.
even if you want to rely on your physical strength,
There's always somebody stronger.
there's going to be somebody stronger. If you rely on bigger, faster, stronger, you're always going to get beat.
Right.
You're gonna run into something different. There's so many variables that lend to the totality of. I'm gonna share you a little something now here. I brought this.
Okay.
I thought this is insightful. It's a fight formula, and the guy that I'm gonna give credit to is initials HK Henry King, HK Slade, SLADE.
That's a cool name.
Yeah, I mean he just sounds like a bad dude right there, HK Slade.
Yeah.
But here's the formula. It looks like this: size plus strength
Okay.
plus speed
Okay.
plus endurance times courage times skill.
Sounds like something I'm teaching my fighters,
Yeah.
the competition guys.
What it speaks to me is, I mean, you could, there are different formulas, I'm sure, get to the same thing. But what you got to remember is, one thing all by itself is not going to hold up
Right.
the entire house.
Yeah.
It's a series of nails. It's the inner connections. It's this overall structure and how it's built. So even before in our classes we get to teaching physical tactics or whatever, we do a lot of stuff about situational awareness
Yeah.
and observation, being aware of your surroundings. These can be just as important as anything else.
For sure.
Which really leads to this huge concept that for anybody at any level of competition, it's timing. I mean, we look at physical confrontations. It's a time and space competition.
Yeah.
And so if you have a basic understanding of that principally, you can apply it to many things.
Have you seen Hollywood affect what you guys do at all? Like people watching different movies or Cobra Kai or something, and they want to learn something, or they're just so sure something's going to work, and you got to burst their little bubble. Has that ever happened to you guys?
It's an all the time kind of thing. So the flip side is for some people, they come in thinking that one thing will be completely devastating. They expect it. On one end of the spectrum, they think that I'm going to poke someone in the nose or solar
Right.
plexus, and they're going to fall like a stack of cards, and I'm going to be victorious. On the flip side of it, what we run into is with some of our military clientele or some of the law enforcement is picking the right tool. So they might be turning. The analogy is they're turning off light switches with hammers.
Right. Right.
If the only tool you give somebody is a hammer, they're going to get a lot of stuff done with it.
Yeah. Every problem looks like a nail.
Every problem looks like a nail,
Yeah.
and they'll crush things. And so, the best approach is going to be homogeneous, and it's going to incorporate, all
have
of the
multiple
above.
tools in your toolbox.
Yeah,
Pull out the right one for the situation.
That's a classic deal. The classic analogy is, tools in the toolbox. And then, you've heard other people will take it a step further and say tools on your tool belt,
right.
which is you
Right.
only have at that time what you brought with you. Many people will say, we'll get talking about concealed carry sometimes, and people will say, I'll say, hey, who's concealed carry? A bunch of hands will go up. I'll say, all right, well, let me see your gun. Oh, I don't carry it. Or I don't have it here.
Yeah.
And they didn't bring it.
Or I have pepper spray.
Right.
Well, where is it?
Yeah.
I run with that, or I carry it in my purse.
Right.
But they don't have it when they were going to work that morning or on the way. They didn't bring it with them to the class.
I love weapons. I'm collect them, train people on them, just really into them. But obviously, our brain's our best weapon, our body's our best weapon. Like you guys are saying, if it's not in your hand, if it's not acceptable, if you don't have it in a fast presentation, it's no point. One of the biggest misconceptions I've seen is people think those stun guns, from Hollywood, on TV and in the movie, they touch the person with them and the person collapses.
Yeah.
And so I'll bring some into my class. I'm like, anybody want to zap me? Anybody want to get zapped? And we'll have fun with it. And they're just, it's kind of sad because I bust their little bubble. They're like, man, I have those. I thought I'm safe when I got it. It's like, unless you're really holding them and putting them on it for over 5 seconds, you're really not going to do anything but cause them to jerk away. And, I just see a lot of those misconceptions. And sometimes it's dangerous because I think, oh, I got my pepper spray. I'm going to walk down this dark alley at night. It's like, no. I don't care what you have in your hand,
Well, so you hit on a huge issue, which is, as a trainer, I've got a couple of, I'm divided, I'm torn, I have a conflict. So on one hand, I can impart confidence to my students and let them leave less fearful, and they can go about their day and not worry about all these things, and that's one benefit of the gift. And then I'm also same for military or police. I can send these the officers or soldiers out, and then they can think, hey, I'm better, I got this, and they can have a confidence. They have a confidence. The problem is of course my bet is that hey, they're going to be that group that never sees any conflict.
Right.
They're never going to be tested. And if I played a straight percentage game, they'd probably be okay. They'd probably be okay. They would never be tested. They'd never experience something really dangerous, and they'd be okay. The problem is the times when they really are tested, and then there is no BSing.
Right.
There is no making it up, and that at that point they really got to have it.
Yes.
They really got to have it.
Now,
So
he does do one thing in the classes that's probably thinking about, like, women walking to and from work and the relying on the weapons that they never have, and why that's not a great idea. He does an improvised weapons exercise.
awesome. Love improvised weapons.
Yeah, this is always fun. It's a little embarrassing for me sometimes because what he does is he takes my purse
Okay.
and he's just like, let's see what you got in there. And he's like, how can I make this into a weapon? I've gotten better at this exercise after he's done it a couple times
That's cool.
because I can prepare myself a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, he will just pull things out of my bag and kind of demonstrate how it could be utilized as a weapon, whether it's a rolled up sheet of paper
Right.
in making it into like a little stabby thing into the side of the neck, or my mascara tube, or
There you
my
go.
umbrella, or
Couboutons,
a
pens.
random pair of tights you can use
Yeah.
to choke someone out,
There
or
you
whatever
go.
he's come up with a few times that have been a little weird, but he's creative, and it's a good demonstration tool to show them that you can always find something, the strap on the purse,
Right.
to utilize what you do have available, because I am forever forgetting the flashlights that he has bought me, which is
Right.
his favorite tool.
With the little tactical crown on the end.
Yeah, that, can blind you because your iPhone light is not the right kind of flashlight.
No, and that's
Yeah.
hard to get on fast too. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the little flashlights. Improvised weapons, great. I want to talk about that mindset real quick. When you're doing the classroom portion and you're dealing with just like psychology, what is the mind frame you're trying to get someone into to survive a violent attack? Like, what's some of the things you're telling folks?
Yeah, so a really big question, and again, this is something that I would pose to any group, entry level to a top military unit, and I would always ask, what are your priorities in a conflict?
Okay.
And you'll get various responses like, to go home, to destroy my opponent, to come
Right.
out on top, and responses to that effect. And then what I always end up telling people I go, do you realize everything you just said is an outcome?
Okay.
You're expressing what you want the outcome of the conflict to be. But what I'm really getting at is, what are you shooting for in the middle of it?
Okay.
What are you gunning for while it's going on? And then those at that time, then I'll point them to four pillars that I really prescribe to: breathing, relaxation, movement, and posture. These are the priorities that I think a person should spend their time on. Breathing obviously is one of those things. It is at one point very, very simple. I mean,
right.
And at one point you could spend a lifetime studying it. It's so amazing.
And it's hard to do in a conflict.
100%. You know, it's the best example I give you on breathing. What always happens is I'll be encountered with maybe a young professional police or military who's fresh out of training. They're young, they're strong, and then when we first begin to train and they're squeezed, they're challenged initially, they'll hold their breath.
Yeah, 100%.
And they self-inflict. But breathing is one of those concepts where it makes everything better. Pursuit driving's better. Holding hands, jogging, running, lovemaking, whatever it is, if you breathe well, you will do that activity well.
Muscles need oxygen, right?
100%. And as soon as you stop breathing, you'll begin to go down a rabbit hole of stress and inability and panic. All these other things come. So breathwork's number one. Relaxation's key. And it's relative relaxation. I mean, obviously, if you completely relax, your body physically will fall like a heap to the floor, and you can't maintain any structure. But who always survives a car crash? It's the drunk driver.
Yes.
And why do they do it? Because their body's relaxed. So a relaxed mind and body can handle much more punishment.
How would you tell someone to do that, you know, when they're being violently attacked? Because, you know, it seems counterintuitive. And I agree with you because, like, I know from the professional fight world, the people that are relaxed in there have their full abilities.
Yeah.
The people in there that are wide-eyed and panicked, they can't function very well. Yeah. So I want to be relaxed, but how can I when someone's attacking me? What are some tips to do that? So
here's an easy way, and I shouldn't say there's no easy way. I think one of the things I think that's different from our approach than what some of the stuff that's out there is we are realistic.
Okay.
As to what it takes, you know. So you just can't. I'm a professional and I believe in preparation. I don't think that's overnight success takes 15 years. You've heard that saying. There's something to that. I mean, you can't expect to go in on 5 minutes and beat someone who's been at it for 5 years.
For sure.
You know,
yeah. Different levels.
So that's it. When you're learning a new thing, I think one of the easiest ways to pick up on it or explore it is to look at the extremes. For example, relaxation. Like you want to teach somebody about being relaxed. So we would do drills where you would start off completely relaxed.
Okay.
And then on the flip side, we'd have them try to do the same thing, completely tense.
Okay.
And then, for example, like a push-up. You could do a push-up or a plank or a simple drill. So we would say, all right, do one push-up completely relaxed. So relaxed that you can almost not even get yourself off the ground.
Right.
Then we would have them do a push-up 100%. Their full entire body, head to toe, racked in muscular tension, and have them try to do 10 push-ups. And it's exhausting. They can hardly get through 5, let alone 10 or whatever the number is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's one way for people to kind of see the extremes of it. And once they can see the extremes, then we move them to the middle. Then we play with nuance and shades of gray. So after doing with the breath work and then working on the relaxation, obviously movement pieces, those are more of tactics and techniques, and posture. Again, that's just body positioning. We work with that. But to get someone through it, they have to experience it. I mean, there's no shortcut. I mean, you can only read so much in a book,
right?
And sometimes you got to feel it.
Professor YouTube, you can only Professor YouTube so long.
Yes, and so hopefully, you know what we do when we get someone inoculated or give them that initial exposure to it, there'll be a huge initial jump in competency.
Okay.
Just from having some awareness of what's available and what's out there. But then it'll be up to them if they really want to continue their improvement to work on it practically.
Let's talk about that because earlier you said you got to have it. When you're tested, you got to have it. Mm-hmm. You know, and how does someone get it to where they could use a technique or a principle under stress? Like, what does it take to be able to do it at that level? Can I just learn it once? Can I do 10 reps and be able to do it under stress, or is there something more to it?
Yeah, so it depends on the skill we're talking about, the level of difficulty. There's a really cool progression on competency. So the first level is unconscious incompetence. You don't even know that you suck. That's the first level. You're unaware that you're so terrible and ill-equipped and bad.
Right.
So you're unconscious incompetent.
Okay.
The next level is you're consciously incompetent. Like
Okay.
you've gone to a training and you've thought you were tough and you met a really dangerous
right.
person and you realize, hey, I'm not good at this.
Which is a good revelation to have.
It's the beginning. It's the beginning of turning it around, changing direction.
Right.
So once you become aware that you can't do a thing, then you can start to achieve training or work towards a goal. And then you get into what we call conscious competence.
Okay.
And that's where I can do it. It's a new skill. I got to think about it. I need to concentrate. I need to really try.
Gotcha.
I can do it. And then at the highest level, of course, is when you've done so many reps that you move it from the conscious to the subconscious pipeline, and you can do it unconsciously. You're competent.
So you're unconsciously competent. That's the name of the game, right?
That's the highest level.
Because there's not a lot of thinking when someone's trying to kill you. It's a lot of reacting. It's a lot of instinct. It's a lot of resulting on your highest level training that you mastered. And you want to be unconsciously competent. When it hits the fans, you want to be doing that wrist break and striking to that point, like without thinking. It just happened. And there's no way to get there unless you are putting in that time. Would you agree with that?
Agreed. Now, but I would say is, I mean, you're talking some super high level combatives and that stuff, and to have that ability is phenomenal. I mean, these are the masters, the Bruce Lees, like you talk about, that we aspire to. That's obviously the goal. You know, I mean, that's the pinnacle, the peak. What I would tell people is don't be overwhelmed by that mountain to climb that mountain.
Enjoy the journey.
There is fortunately, for most people, a lot more time to respond and react than they probably considered.
Okay.
It may seem like it's right on top of them, it's in their face immediately, and they don't have a time to react. But really, we rely a lot on a model that's very popular in the tactical world called the OODA loop.
Yeah, the OODA loop.
Everybody's kind of heard of this nowadays. It's getting very popular, at least in the tactical community.
Yeah,
It's no secret, and it's observe, orient, decide, and act.
Yeah.
And you got to get through the loop. So how you win the game is you get through the loop faster than your opponent, or somewhere in there you shortcut them. So it starts with observation or awareness. I substitute awareness for observation, but you start off there. So first you get a good handle on what your environment is, most of the information through the eyes, other senses as well, and then you orientate yourself. Relative positioning, what's my position to the bad guy? Is he behind me? Is he ahead of me? Is he 50 yards away? Is he right in front of my face? And then based off that, you make your decisions. I'm going to run. I'm going to fight. I'm going to get away. I'm not going to walk towards the danger. I'm going to go I'm going to get my flashlight out. I'm going to get my gun out. I'm going to get my knife out, whatever it is. And then your action follows. So the better your observation, orientation, and decision-making, the better your outcomes. It's natural. So when people practice firearms, for example, we'll pick on people that are gun people. They do a lot of time spend a lot of time pulling the trigger. That's like a fighter pilot sitting in there and just pulling the trigger. What makes you a good gunfighter, what makes you good at combatives is all the things up before and up to that moment.
For sure.
That's what makes you good.
Yeah, I like that. I love the OODA loop. I'm glad you're teaching that. You keep bringing up breathing, and I haven't had the pleasure of training with you, but I have some friends that I train with that have, and they talk about you in a highlight. And they say that you have some experience with a combative system called Russian Sistema. Is that accurate?
Yep, that's right.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because that's not a super well-known one.
Yeah, so I got kind of indoctrinated or exposed to that in about 2003. I was doing some training through work and happened to meet up with a guy that's one of my mentors now and longtime friend, Ken Good.
Okay.
He's for those of the people that are familiar with flashlights, he is considered by many to be the father of low light tactics.
Cool.
So he was a founding member of the Surefire Institute. Anyone that's in the tactical community is well aware of their lights. They make one of the best tactical lights out there. And Ken
I have to look at the brand of mine over here.
ended up forming his own company called Strategos International, and then he ended up would do law enforcement training.
Oh,
and
awesome.
So I had a chance to meet up with him and train with him. Got brought on as an adjunct instructor. He liked some things that he saw in me. Ken was heavily influenced by Aikido Jiu-Jitsu at the time, and also Russian martial art. And of course, I ate this up. I love this stuff. I mean, it was so awesome. So that was my exposure to it initially. A couple of Ken's guest and other instructors that he had were high-level guys in Russian martial art.
Cool.
And the system, as they call it, that's systema. Is the word system with the A on the end.
Okay.
Is Russian for the system.
Cool.
And what it talks about is all the systems of the body working together. I mean, you're not fighting just on muscles. It's your mind, body, spirit, all the triad, if you will.
So a lot of philosophy in there.
Yeah, it's really deeply rooted in Russian Orthodox Christianity.
Okay.
Which really speaks to the people that are from that background or can appreciate that.
That's really cool. I didn't know that.
It was a fighting style that was suppressed when the communists came to power because, and this was something that the villagers and the quote unquote peasants would use to defend themselves from government invaders, and it stayed quiet. It was kind of in the shadows and passed along, and has recently came to light and is getting popularity. And the pillars that I mentioned earlier, the breathing, relaxation, movement, and posture, those are all Systema principles.
That's great. So some of that stuff that you come from and you learned, you're passing that on to folks as well.
Yeah, so like the breathing is key. It's a critical thing, So without breath work, you're ineffective. You're not going to get anything done. So, but the breath work it transcends everything. It helps every single thing that you do. So if you do that, Lisa and I are both yoga instructors.
Oh, awesome.
Yep, she had this.
I need to do some more yoga, and I need to master my breathing.
So Lisa,
breathing is key.
Yeah, so she challenged me. She's like, "Hey, let's do yoga," and I'll be honest, I had some, I was like, yoga.
Yeah, it's not like a tough guy thing.
And
but it is.
But it is.
Why'd you try it?
You can go in and get relaxing yoga, or you can get broke doing some yoga.
Yeah.
And so, it's just another example of the breath work being so important. So, breathing under duress is different than breathing when you're comfortable. If you're laying quietly in a room and, it's inhale, it's exhale, it's very different. But to breathe well when someone's attacking you or punching you, it's a different skill. That's a different skill.
Yeah, that's awesome. So some of the feedback that I've gotten from my training partners, it's like, Aaron, you need to breathe more. Aaron, you need to relax a bit more. Like you would have been more effective. You would have had a little bit more stamina. You would have lasted a little bit longer if you were controlling your breathing and being a little bit more relaxed. You were so tense. You were just burning through, all your energy. And so I learned, the hard way, the importance of breathing and relaxing in the middle of a fight. And it sounds so weird when you tell people breathe and relax in the middle of a fight, but it's so important. If in the movies, the fight will either last, a half second or 3 hours. But in reality, it could go on a little longer than you thought, and you need that stamina, and that breathing and relaxing is a big part of that, don't you think?
Yeah. So, like, for example, let's say you had to chase somebody. You have to chase somebody down.
Well, that'd be terrible. That's your world there. I'm not chasing anybody.
Okay, yeah. So
you're being chased.
Let's say you're being chased and you ran for 200 yards and then had to fight.
I take that
else.
back. I might get in trouble for saying that, but yeah, if you hurt my family member and you ran, I'm chasing you.
No,
yeah.
100% agree. I'm with you.
Yeah, there definitely could be a scenario where we would all find ourselves chasing somebody for the right reasons.
And I can definitely see where we're being chased as well. And
right.
Yeah, you're out of juice, man.
I'm chasing my dog.
Yes.
That's what I'm doing.
Yes.
For those that are listening.
So
she's loose and in danger.
Like one of the breathing, there's numerous breathing principles. One of the breathing principles that, I'd give people right now to try or be aware of is continuity. Continuity, but don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath. And so here's your homework from today till tomorrow.
Okay.
Count how many times during the day you hold your breath. And you'll usually see it when people go to sit down in a chair. There'll be that moment.
Okay. Right.
And they relax, or getting up or getting down, putting their keys in the car. All these little breath holds are just when you hold your breath, you hold tension.
Okay.
So imagine your vessel, if you will, your body is in and out. You breathe freely through the nose and mouth. When you close off your breathing, you become a sealed vessel like a pressure cooker.
Okay.
So when a strike comes, for example, it comes in at 100 level 100.
Okay.
Your body is eating the entirety of that strike, and the strike is going to hurt much worse, and that pressure will have nowhere to go. But instead, with breathing and an exhale, you relax, you release that pressure that's coming in, and it allows you to take that impact.
Yeah, it's
better than holding your breath
we
alone.
teach the boxers and kickboxers when you breathe, when you strike, your lungs get deflated. And, that's a good chance for you to get hit is when you're hitting because you're open so many places.
Mm-hmm.
And when your lungs are deflated, it's going to they can't be weaponized. When your lungs are inflated, they almost become like a solid object that could hit the organs behind them. But when they're deflated, they're not going to do that. Is that like the kind of the same principle?
Yeah, very similar, very similar. So
Yeah.
we do another drill. We had a young lady just the other day that was doing this drill. So the concept of the drill is meant to inspire confidence and to demonstrate ability. So what we do is you start at a standing position, and then you go to horizontal on the ground. So either laying on your back, laying on your face, but unsupported horizontal on the ground. That's the middle position, and then you return back to your feet. So position 1 is standing, position 2 is laying on the ground, and you get back to standing. That would be 1 repetition. So what we do is we have them do a full inhale, hold their breath, and do as many as they can.
Ooh.
And we count it.
That sounds tough.
So
and it's sort of a setup.
Yeah. I see where you're going with this one.
It's a total setup. So they do.
Don't forget this if you're listening and then you take the class. Right?
Cover your ears.
Yeah, even if they know it's coming, it doesn't matter because experientially they still need to feel it.
They're gonna get it. They're gonna.
So they would do, we might say 5 reps. So as soon as they exhale or start breathing, they're done. So they might get 5 reps of that. Then what we have them do next is give them a moment to catch their breath, and then we have them exhale all their air, completely empty.
Okay.
Hold their breath, again, completely empty, and then do the same thing.
That
up
seems
and down.
worse.
It is worse.
Yeah, because you don't have
The number is
oxygen.
normally lower.
Okay, that makes sense.
The number's lower. And what happens is on that one, typically is the panic and the fear comes on really quick.
That's so bad.
So let's say a person does inhale and holds it, they do 5. And when they're fully exhaled and hold it, they do 3.
Okay.
Let's say that to be a typical number.
And they're really tired by this point and kind of sweaty.
Yeah.
Yeah, and right immediately after the exercise, they're panting and they can't breathe and they can't really even talk or do any of that. And then what we do is we tell them, okay, you're going to do it one more time. You need the exercise one more time. And the only rule now on this next time is you may not hold your breath at all. You have to inhale and exhale constantly without pausing the entire time. And we have them do it 5 times their highest number. So if they did 5 repetitions before, we have them do 25. And then, of course, they can do it easily. Okay. And by the end, they're breathing fine. They're talking fine.
Wow.
And then what we do, we pause. I mean, we could do it the 10 times the person drill.
Right.
But what we're doing is we're showing them, hey, you're at least 5 times more capable if you don't hold your breath.
That's a pretty good drill. Just show the importance of breathing.
And so everybody leaves with that. And it's like, hey, yeah.
Just breathe.
And sadly, the flip side of that is you will see people that are highly skilled sometimes. Maybe they're a good shooter. Maybe they've had some martial arts training, Krav Maga, Taekwondo, Jiu-Jitsu, whatever. They'll self-inflict by breath holding because they don't have that piece. They don't have that skill.
Yeah,
so they hold their breath and they self-inflict, and they don't even get out of the box.
Because when you are low oxygen and that panic sets in, forget doing all those counters. All those intricate things. When you're panicked. And you're just freaking out. I've been there. I've been being choked, and you can't remember anything when that panic sets in. One of my law enforcement trainers, he would always call it, "You're in the basement. You're in the basement. You're down in the base brain. You can't think. You're down in your animal brain. You can't think the way you need to." So, just mastering that breathing, I could see, if I'm getting hit, if I'm getting knocked around, and I'm just remembering, all right, just breathe, and I could keep my mind and I can keep oxygen in my muscles. Then when I get my bearings, boom, then I could do whatever I need to do. But if I just held my breath and freaked out, it's only going to go downhill from there.
Yeah, so the way of looking at it is, how many days can you go without food?
Right.
Some people would say 30 days or, pick a number. It's a range. How many days can you go without water? Hey, 3 days maybe without water. Conditions again. How long can you go without breathing?
The other demonstration he doesn't have them try this on each other, but he lets me demonstrate this on him.
Okay.
He will hold his breath.
Okay.
And let me punch him.
Oh, that sounds fun.
It is fun for me.
Yeah, and interesting. What's even cool for the demonstration is it sounds different. The strikes sounds different. There is an immediate feedback for the listener. to hear. Now, it's immediate feedback for me, the recipient,
Yeah.
because it hurts.
Yeah.
And I don't like getting punched. It's not the way to take strikes proper. It's one of the other things that Russian martial art system
But
is
it's
known
very
for. Is
visual,
That's
too.
cool.
You can see the difference. They can see and hear it, and it's very clear to them the difference.
Nice.
Yeah, that particular application is, it just shows it's a breathing and relaxation, to overcome that. So for your audience, let's talk about a business application. I would tell anybody, let's say something goes down at work, the fire alarm goes off, or there's a hurricane, or
Right.
Someone storms in the door,
Tornado.
or anything.
Tornado, right?
Your very first check down in any situation is breath. So you
Just breathe.
just take a inhale, exhale, and just the mere consciousness of that. If you're breathing, you're alive.
Right.
If you're breathing, you're alive. You got a chance. If you got into a car wreck, and the airbag went off, and it's dust and confusion, and you're sitting there, and something hurts, or many things hurt, but if you're breathing, you got a chance.
Right. A little self-check.
You're still in it. That's your very first check down, and then for anything that happens, if the call comes in, something's very strenuous, got to take a breath. Take a breath. Make sure you're breathing.
Yeah, I like that.
And if you're around people who are panicked and in a stressful situation, probably a good cue to tell them, breathe.
Breathe.
Because you'll look to the person to the left of you, and they've got the deer in the headlights. Their eyes are like silver dollars.
Yeah. Take a breath.
And they're being overwhelmed.
So we only got about 9 minutes left, and I don't want the show to end without you guys letting know how people could contact you if they wanted to get some of these lessons from you guys.
So the best way to get in touch with us is to contact Bertrand Tactical at gmail.com.
Okay, easy email. All right, I like it. Cool. And then, so that was Bertrand Tactical at gmail.com?
Yep.
Cool.
We do have an Instagram and a Facebook.
Nice.
Same tag.
I'm going to start
Bertrand.
following you guys.
There you go.
And then, because with those apps too, there's those messengers.
Yep.
I got this one guy. He only messages me through Instagram Messenger. I didn't even know they had a messenger, and I was like, "What is this?" And I have all these unread things. I'm old, so these guys are teaching me these different platforms. But all right, so emailing you guys, and then they could set up seminars and training and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Now, if it was, so you guys are doing it for just civilians, and you would also do it for sounds like a workplace, right?
Yep.
Okay. So one of the challenges to me is all the different aspects of that, like you were mentioning. Residential care training is going to look different than the gas station. The owner's like, "Hey, man, my kids run this store, and I don't want them getting killed, and can you guys come in and do something?" So, what kind of businesses would you guys be able to put something together for?
Yeah, I'd say, well, really any business I think would be doable. So just you have every business has different risks.
Right.
On one sense, it's very mathematical. It's very very cut and dried. I mean, it's a tactical geometry in one sense. From angles and that kind of thing. So you could approach danger areas that way, like ingress and egress points. So entrances and exits, how that looks, pinch points, structures, those kind of things are. That's just math. That's just logic and fact. And then the other thing becomes is, what are your policies and procedures that are underlined, that are, what can you do, what's available, and what are your typical risks? What are your high percentage things that you're going to encounter on a day-to-day basis? And what are those one-off things? What are those unusual things that you may be susceptible to? So,
but I'd add that we would subjectively want to know what the employees are concerned about.
Right, yeah,
Because
yeah.
that's probably, from my perspective, one of the most important things. What are they worried about? Where are their concerns? Are they
Right.
worried about the parking lot at night? Are they worried about the creepy guy, the transient issues? Or, there's a lot of things that come up. Just, they may not be concerned about the things that their company thinks are an issue. They may identify 10 other things,
Well, an interesting thing to look at is the evolution of the active shooter.
Right.
The active shooter response. So even like in the military law enforcement, the active shooter response, the Columbine response was contain and call out.
Right.
Where they were going to contain it in the
I
building.
took care of some of those kids that got shot.
crazy.
Yeah,
Absolutely crazy.
I was out there during that.
So, it was going to be contain and call out. And meanwhile, while everyone is outside, all the law enforcement are outside, quote unquote, safe, the damage was continuing inside. So law enforcement adapted there. And sometimes, reactively we do. We're not always proactive, but it went from, so then we had this, we got to go in. We can't wait. We can't wait for SWAT to show up. So then it became these 4-man teams with these different formations, and we're going to posse up, and we're going to make a contact team, and we're going to go hunt the bad guy. So it became that. And then it became, we don't even have time for that. And, when you come home and the faucet's been running, and, what do? Do you start throwing towels down? No, you got to shut off the water.
Right.
You got to stop that water right now. So the beauty of it, here's the crazy thing, or the thing that's beautiful about the civilians and the workplace active shooter training is people are now empowered that they can react. They don't need to be victims. They don't need to sit, wait for someone else to save them. They don't need to wait for something else, the run, hide, fight, or some other combination of that.
Yeah.
There's several different systems out there now, but
they're all the same though.
Hey, the idea is you can recognize risk, and you can take steps individually to save yourself. Prepare yourself ahead of time, and then in the moment, do the breathing, do the relaxation, get your feet moving,
implement your plan.
Get your plan, get working.
So you were talking about policies, and that's always difficult for me. If I'm teaching a police department, and I go, okay, what can I teach you? And they go, I don't know. Let me ask somebody else. And then they go, I don't know. Let me ask somebody else. They go, I don't know. Oh, I found the policy. You can't teach us vascular neck restraints. Okay, cool. I'm going to leave that one out. Mm-hmm. Workplace, same thing. Oh, actually, I don't even know why we called you because I just read my policy. It says we can't do anything. Or like, I know we asked you to teach us on, train our guys on pepper spray, but I'm looking at our policy. We're not even allowed to carry anything. And so policies sometimes kind of, get in the way, and I've upset a lot of executives by encouraging them to change their policies. And talking about active killers, active shooters, one of the biggest things where I've gotten pushback and made people angry was telling them to get all those like gun-free stickers off their door and stuff like that. And, they're always assuming that that's going to protect them from an active killer. And have you run into you telling somebody something and they're like, no, this policy is to prevent it, and you're like, no, you're making this more dangerous? Have you ever run into policy issues like that?
100%. Yeah, change is hard for some people, and being progressive or moving forward is tough. And sometimes acknowledging that very bad, dangerous people exist out there is one of the toughest things we can do. Because again, it's easier to live under that blanket of denial.
For sure.
We're going to
normalcy bias.
We all did it as kids. We're laying in bed. We're going to pull the sheet over our head, and that's going to keep a werewolf from ripping our face off. Is a little
covers.
Blanket, a little bit of
and
covers.
The nightlight too. The nightlight.
Yep, a little bit of covers. And of course, no bad beast can be around in the daytime. So, you got to look at those things though, and the challenge though for the leadership in an organization is to do right by the people, their employees that are working for them. You have a duty to protect them as well as, get productivity out of them. So your policy should serve your company. Whatever company you have, your policy should serve you. You shouldn't be slave to them. And if they need to be changed, that's why we have policy review. Policies need to be looked at on a regular basis, and we need to look at, if we're doing the same thing we did 10 years ago, we're probably making a mistake there. We should probably look at what we're doing, or at least revisit it.
I get a lot of pushback on the no weapons policy. Because on one hand, an employer's like, I'm worried about the threat from within. And, that is a big deal. You talk about domestic violence spilling in a workplace. There's also employee versus employee violence, where you fired me, I'm going to come shoot you. There's that. And that's one of the biggest security threats of businesses from within, because they know all the doors, which ones are propped, where the cameras, they know the routines. And so a lot of employers are looking at everything from that angle. It's like, no way do I want my employees to carry weapons. But then on the other side, from the active killer side, now it's a problem. So, I've then still been able to teach the improvised weapons. Look at this fire extinguisher. Mm-hmm. Can you carry wasp spray? If your boss asks, why is there wasp spray at your desk? Well, there might be a wasp in my office. You don't know.
I might need a hammer to hang a picture.
Yeah. The hammer in the drawer. Letter opener. I love a good full tang, solid, old school letter opener. for those companies. You know, if someone has a desk and they're not allowed to have a weapon, because that's basically a dagger, you know, for real, you know. And what if they don't have if they have a no weapons policy, they don't have a no letter opener policy, you know?
Yeah. So well, the only thing I would say to that, but with you know, coming from an experienced deal, you know, having done investigation of, you know, crimes where, you know, there's violence against people, when you look at something in hindsight, you know, obviously those last minute preparations, and I would call them last minute, like a fire extinguisher, letter opener, wasp spray. Those are last minutes. You know, what you find when you really deconstruct an incident and you go back and go back and go back is there were some precipitating factors.
Right, yeah.
There's some foreknowledge that was available. Yep. And what happens a lot of times when people say, well, I had an intuition or had a feeling, I had a vibe, I had a gut feeling. And really what it is, you know, that's just an unarticulated observation a lot of times.
Okay.
When you have that, yeah, I had a feeling the hair was up on my neck. I didn't like that guy. There's something about that guy.
It was creepy.
Or,
Yeah.
you know, but later when they go back after the investigations, and obviously some of this is hindsight, and we never really would have been aware of it. But a lot of times, and more often than not, there's like clues.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And so, you know, to have a proper response, whatever it may be, obviously, again, it's multifaceted. I mean, you should have the physical skills, the maneuvers and the takedowns and whatever. All that's important. But again, back to my analogy with the OODA loop, you need to have those observations, have that awareness, know what's going on. That will put you far ahead of the loop. Versus trying to rely on, hey, at the last minute, I'm going to take this guy down if he comes through the door.
And I like that you brought up instinct and intuition, because I've noticed that a lot of people who were victims of violence didn't listen to that.
Yes.
You know, they got that feeling and brushed it off. So I encourage that. And for some reason, I mean, well, it's probably survival, but it seems to me women more than men, they got a really good instinct. Like, when my wife tells me that guy's creepy, and I'm like, oh, he seems fine. Sure enough, months later, you know, it's like that guy did something, and it's like, man, my wife clocked that dude a mile away, you know, like that intuition. And so, you know, I tell people that as well, you know, trust your gut, trust your instinct. If it doesn't feel right, do the OODA loop, you know, make that instinct was part of that observation. It was that feeling. And then make those decisions and moves so they can't hurt you. And that little step, just listening to your intuition and then making a change so they couldn't get you, that could save a life right there, just paying attention to your instinct. Well, guys, believe it or not, it's been 1 hour already. I don't feel like we even scratched the surface. You know, I always feel like that. You know, you think an hour is going to be enough. I have people tell me, I don't know how we were going to get past 15 minutes. But, I mean, there's just so much more that we could talk about when it comes to, you know, surviving violent attacks and things like that. So you guys are welcome to come back anytime and we could finish this discussion. But for now, we're going to close out. You guys got any final thoughts for anybody out there listening and worried about their security at work or anything like that?
If you have a need, you think you got a need, give us a call, check us out. We'll be glad to help you out.
Cool. All right. So, you know, the show is called The Evil Safety Dudes, even though we talk about environmental and security and health as well. So I'm going to do a special outro today. We're going to have to be the evil safety and security dudes and dudettes. Okay.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
For Ryan and Lisa Bertrand, I'm Aaron Icino. Together today, we're the evil safety and security dudes and dudettes. Until next time, everybody, stay safe.